Hey, this is Ralph, and in this video I want to use the CSS property display, but I want to use the Inline-Block property value for that, which I haven't done in a video before. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of setup. And what I want to do with this is I want to just basically take an unordered list and make a horizontal navigation menu out of it. And there's a number of ways you can go about that, but the Inline-Block maybe saves a couple steps. So let's go ahead and do some initial setup here. So I've got basically a blank web page, nothing fancy on it. I do have doc type definition for HTML5, and I've got in the head section, I've got a title enclosed with opening and closing title tags. I've got the character encoding meta, and I also have an author meta in there as well. I am going to need to do some style sheets. I'm going to do some internal styles here in just a moment. In the body of my page, let me go ahead and do some setup. I'm going to use a set of nav tags in order to indicate my navigation menu. And within those nav tags, I'll create an unordered list, opening and closing, and this will be my navigation menu. And within that, I'll have a series of list items. I'll just create some dummy hyperlinks. There we go. Repeat that a few times. I'm using Notepad++, by the way, and Control-D will repeat a line. And I want to change some of the lengths of these. There we go. So I wanted to have a navigation menu made up of different lengthed items. Alright, so I've got a set of nav tags. I've got a set of unordered list tags. Within that I have 5 sets of list items, and each of those is a hyperlink. If I were to look at this on my page at the moment, let me jump over to my browser. Today I am using the RockMelt browser, which is a social networking browser based off of the Chrome engine, so operates and works very similar to Chrome. So there's my unordered list. Now let's go ahead and put in some styles to manipulate how this looks. Since I'm going to be using internal styles, I'll do this up here in the head section of my page. And let's make sure we're really clear on the type of elements that we're working with. So nav, I'm going to go ahead and put a temporary background color on this, or I don't know how temporary it'll be. Background color, and let me just slap some red on there. Back to the browser and refresh. So we know that nav is a block element because it's behaving like a block element. We see that it's trying to take up as much width as possible across the entire browser window, and that's what block elements do. So nav is a block element. And let me also put some padding on that. My unordered list. Background color of yellow. There we go. My unordered list is a block element because, like the nav, it's also trying to take up as much width as possible. So unordered list is a block element. Put some padding on that one. How about some blue? And then foreground color of white. A little bit of margin. There we go. And actually I've got hyperlinks in there too. So let me just do this real quick. I'm going to change my hyperlink color over to white. Takes care of that. Excellent. So here's what I wanted to point out to you. My list items are blue. Notice they are also block elements. They're taking up the full width available to them. So nav, unordered list, and list items are all block elements. And that's what block elements do. They take up the full width that they can. You have to tell them to be shorter if you want them to be shorter. Okay. Anchors, by the way, are inline elements. If I were to put a background color on my anchors, background color purple. There we go. Notice my anchors they are not taking up the full width, they're stopping at the text. So anchors are inline, list item, unordered list, nav are all block elements. Now I want to get my unordered list, I want to get my list items side by side so they look a little bit more like a navigation menu. I'm going to go back to my list items here, and I'm going to do a couple quick things. And I'm going to do a list style type none. By doing that, of course, I will get rid of the bullets. The bullets are really hard to see, these little white bullets over here, but when I refresh, they're gone, so I have no more bullets there. And check this out. Here's what I wanted to show you. I'm going to do display inline-block, okay? Now there's display inline, which will take a block element and make it work like an inline element. There's display block, which will take an inline element and make it display like a block element. But there's also display inline block. This is pretty cool. What it's going to do, it's going to take my block elements, in this case my list items, and it's going to make them behave like inline elements. However, they're still going to be able to get manipulated like their block elements. And I'll show you the difference in just a moment here. So let me go ahead and save this, head over to my browser, refresh, and check this out. Now my list items are side by side. Okay, and now you don't see the blue background color because the anchors are on top of it. But if I were to get rid of the background color of my anchors, you would now see the blue. So my list items are now being treated like inline elements, and it easily gets them side by side. So that makes things pretty easy. If I want to get this centered on the page, by the way, I can go to its parent container, and I can do text align center. There we go. Now it's centered. Because if you want to center inline elements, which my list items currently are, then you go to its parent container and do text align center. That's how you center inline elements. So here's a quick little way to make a horizontal navigation menu. And the real secret to this was simply going to my list items and doing display inline block. Had I just done display inline, very, very similar, but I wouldn't have had the same amount of control over them. For instance, what if I did, let's see, now I don't want to do width. How about if I just did some padding of 10 pixels? There we go. So that's his display inline. Let me go back to inline block. There we go. Now with my block elements, I can do margins on them, so I get that space up there. So minor difference, but it can really come in handy.